Hello, I'm Sean Lim, and welcome to After 10. Korean Americans and overseas Koreans are increasingly voicing their political clout in American politics, but the journey didn't happen overnight. On today's After 10, we meet with one of the trailblazers of the Korean American community in U.S. politics. Stay with us. Amid a heightened interest in the international community on the comfort women issue, Cho Yoon-sun, Korea's Minister of Gender Equality and Family, recently paid tribute to the Comfort Women Memorial in New Jersey. The Virginia Senate passed a bill on publicizing the EC name, and New York State has also been looking into the issue as well. Korean Americans have been increasingly more vocal on political issues in the U.S. On today's After 10, we meet Kim Chang-joon, the first Korean American politician to be elected to the U.S. Congress. As a three-term member of the U.S. Congress and a mayor of a city in California, he strived to promote cooperation between Korea and the United States. Meet Kim Chang-joon and hear his thoughts on the growing impact of Korean Americans in the political field. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight on After 10. It's an honor.
Well, same here.
Well, Koreans overseas and also Korean Americans in the United States have certainly shown some of their political clout these days with the passage of textbook revisions to include EC in school textbooks in Virginia and also some of the Comfort Women Statue initiatives going on. How active has the Korean community been recently? Are you seeing a growth?
They have not been actively involved until this matter occurs. This dual designation of Japan's Sea of Japan and Eastern Sea was not a big deal. I don't think Korean American claiming that entire Sea of Japan should be eradicated, replaced by Eastern Sea. No, all they are saying is subtitling it with the parentheses, and such a no big deal. But Japanese government took that as very I guess hurting their integrity or something. They spend tons of money hiring famous lobbyists and campaign against this activity, which makes Korean American more angry. And finally they got organized and had a fundraising, starting some grassroots campaign, which means that talking to one by one all the state delegates and go after them. In Virginia, for instance, the number of Koreans are not that many, but they have been pretty active, not as a group, but individually few in terms of money raising. So they know that. And so while doing this thing, I have to say that it's all done by Abe, which is an ultra right wing, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Then not only this co-identification or a dual designation, they got some other issues which makes Korean American very upset. The Japan's claiming sovereignty over this Dokdo Island, which is ridiculous. And everybody knows that Dokdo belongs to Korea. Back in 1945, it was very clear. And then this sexual slave, they call it comfort woman, that is even more emotional issue. And now they're changing their attitudes. Abe, I think it's something stupidity, right? I don't know what's the matter with them. Really makes not only Koreans here, but Koreans overseas even more angry. I don't know why they are not angry, but certainly I was angry. All the Korean Americans are very upset. That's a matter of dignity. And you talk about insult. We feel small. What is this nonsense? We gotta do something about this. they better raising money and build a little statue in California, a couple of places, East Coast as well. And then this bill comes up, so they say, wait a minute, that's beginning right here in Virginia, which is near to Washington, D.C. And so they organized, did it. First initial reaction was pretty bad. They was badly defeated, but they didn't give up. Went back again, and God, they did maybe 50 round trips back and forth, and they did, and finally won assembly, what they call it, delegates, and then Senate, and won the case. Now governor is talking crazy. I don't know what's going on right now, but I think it's done deal. I'm so proud of him as a Korean American myself. Normally quiet, law-abiding citizens, but when time comes up, when crisis comes, start hurting their basic integrity and pride. No, they don't sit back and do nothing about this. And that's what I guess comes from our Korean blood.
So you've also seen some of this political activism rise from this indignation from the 92 Los Angeles riots. Can you tell us about that mobilizing the Korean American community?
Yeah, I was a mayor of the city of Diamond, which is fifth richest city in California, Los Angeles County actually, and of course white-dominated city. And that's the time it happened. So I was involved in that. I went to, using police chief car, I went to Korea, look at this site myself. This is not a Korean American issue, this is a deep-rooted, long-time black and white issue. And Korea happens to be right there middle. The Koreatown is actually separated, south and north, which is south means black community, north means white. And Koreatown is right between sandwiched. And so they act like some kind of a barrier or something. And they start stealing or into Korean merchandise and stores and set the fire and then just stole everything they can hold of. It was all televised and screened. Everybody's shocked. We were shocked. And finally, all the Koreans mobilized together. And I went rush out and I saw them got a Korea Marine band on their forehead, and then running around with a air gun, which is not a real gun, but it hurts. And say we're going to keep our community with our own hand because we didn't see any police out there. I don't want to talk about that, but there's a political issue that why they couldn't do anything. They got lined up, but they couldn't do anything, waiting for the command, go ahead. But the mayor and police chief was fighting on this campaign, who's going to be next mayor. So it becomes a politics again. But this is not a Korean American issue. It's a Rodney King's issue. Black fellow, I don't want to talk about that. It's a kind of long story. But for some reason, media portray that as a conflict between rising Korean community and blacks. No, sir. That has nothing to do with the Korean. It's a strictly black and white issue.
Well, certainly you have the toughness from your experience to enter this world of politics. A lot of people these days don't seem to value the profession of politics. Why do you think that is? Has the political world changed since you were in it?
Politics is never been popular. I don't remember when I was in politics. I don't remember we never get a 50%. Always bottom. So as here, 25. Our president, she's got 60%. Amazing. Obama get 20%. Never been popular. Why is that? It's the continuous attack by the media. They love to come after congressmen. Anything they can find ridiculed, they can find exaggerated, and they got some investigation, their own investigation, printed right away, and people love it. When I talk, totally out of context, they quote something, make fun of it. They gotta have some kind of story to tell. Who would be a better one than congressman? He's elected by the people, exposed. He cannot fight back. And I guess that's what it is, in my opinion. A lot of congressmen that I am associated with are very good people, very conscious people, decent citizens, and has a very good educational background, and come from pretty good, decent family. And they are looking for one of us kind of mood. Yes, I've been telling them I'm one of you. I work harder than I am. That's why I got elected. Other guys, I had 16 of them running together. There's lawyers, 3, 4 of them. They're arrogant. They come from very high. I am not. I came alone from poor country. So they elected to somebody self-made and one of us. Well, I guess, I don't know how to explain why politicians is such a low profession.
Well, there was a time where a lot of students out of school wanted to be in politics. It was very competitive, and a lot of the people entering it were definitely the cream of the crop. But even nowadays, like, would you recommend younger Korean Americans to enter politics?
Absolutely. I was a pioneer. They came after me. I cleaned that up, so to speak. Now, whoever comes in, Korean American, will be much, much easier. They know, they should study my case. They can avoid all these rocks and bumping. And I can help them too, what to avoid. Politics, is a lot of traps out there. They like to see you trap and fall down, make a big story out of this thing. Korean American got to be involved in politics. We have zero representation. That's why all Tokyo Island, all the Japanese nonsense going on, we don't have anybody to represent us.
So just the presence of a Korean American there does have the link between the political agenda that global Koreans would like to see advanced.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know. Trust me, it's not the politics is law and profession. I don't see any of them running it, actually. They ran and lost again. They ran, lost again. I've been telling them, before you decide to run, come to see me. Many years ago I ran, but certain principles still applies. But once they reach certain point, they become a state, a delegate, or a local government. They think they are big, become arrogant, and they don't seek any advice from old men like me. Well, it's different generation. 물론이, politics is always same. It's a human being factor. Not much changed. I don't see any big changes right now. A little bit getting better, more exposed, more transparent. Should be. But look at Russia, same thing.
Virginia Delegate Mark Kim has recently been receiving attention for his contributions to passing the EC bill. And Kang Seok-ki, the first Korean American mayor of Irvine, California, used to be called the Obama of Irvine. Second and third generation Korean Americans have taken great leaps in the field of politics. And 3 Korean American candidates have thrown their hats into the ring for the upcoming United States Senate election in November. So you're currently running an Academy of Politics and Economics, and you promote political activities of Koreans overseas. What is the relationship between political activism in the Korean American community and Korea's diplomatic power on the global stage?
It's getting better now. It used to be this animosity between Korean American and Koreans in Korea. Where that thing come from, I don't know. It grew up such a way that I guess Pete was what's his name, chairman of Russian Technology. He came here. He was Secretary of State nominated, and finally packed up and left Korea. Said, I'll never come back or something. Was very angry. A lot of Koreans here think twice. Oops, maybe we made a mistake. That was too harsh. And it's also him. He still got a little thicker skin. That kind of attack shouldn't bother him. So both got something to blame. But I believe because of him, the relationship has been surprisingly upgraded.
Because people realized what happens when you don't have a cordial relationship?
You become a Korean to understand Korea. I can do that easily because I grew up here, and then I did adult my life in USA, so I can understand both sides. Some of them, like himself, couldn't do it. So there's a lot of, now it's been gradually dispersed. They don't kind of, used to be pretty bad, even toward me, but I used to be discriminated in America, discriminated here too. I thought that, geez, I got no place to go. But no, it's no longer true. It's getting better, America, much better. Look at him. Obama is a president. Here, the sort of negativeness toward the Korean Americans gone, still there, residual, but practically disappeared. So I see getting better and better relationship, and I think it's going to be a much better next 1 year, much better.
Tell us about the Global Forum of Korean Politicians. What's the main purpose of that?
There's a lot of elected officials out there, and some folks are Koreans, pretty high-ranking position in the cabinet, and some of them are school districts. Doesn't have to be elected, but appointed too, high-ranking. Those folks should be invited to Korea, get together here, sit down. Russia, some of them I cannot even name the countries. All over the world, you'll be surprised. Australia, there's a couple of city councilmen. I was shocked. New Zealand, there's one. Even Japan, and not to mention China. So they are all over. Why don't you invite them all? Now, of course, they don't speak Koreans, and probably only one in history as a non-born, Korean-born immigrant. But anyway, so these folks would like to get together. Why? When they come in, I like to, by the way, facilitate the meeting myself because I speak both languages. When they come in, see what happened in Korea, how well this country has been progressed, seeing it, believing it. They can see it, and they get a warm welcome for Korean people. They suddenly realize the heritage is Korean. I've got to inject that Korean heritage to them.
And why would that be important for
Very
them to go
important.
back to their home country?
When we have some dispute in, let's say, Korea and Japan, if he is an influential member in Japanese government, I'm sure he can help us quite a bit. Look at what happened to Honda, California congressman. He's been very helpful to Korea. He's an anti-Japanese. He was Japanese himself. You wouldn't be surprised. You'll be surprised. The one man can contribute quite a bit. And New Zealand, all over the world we got. I like to linking together. We're all Koreans, whether they cannot speak Koreans or not. They look like Korean. They have Korean heritage. We got to let them know that we love them in Korea. They are welcome in here. Look around, take a trip, how good the Koreans doing so far. So they can always have some connections. That's what we need. Some political connection. We need them. They need us too. We invite them. They can tell us a lot of things.
So for all those people out there who are looking at politics as a hopeless cause, or
Hopeless cause.
or their contribution is just meaningless, what would you tell them?
I don't know how to put it. When you mean meaningless. When you say contribution, I guess monetary contributions.
Or just even thoughts or efforts, or if I don't have any,
the politician means leadership. When you go to Congress, whatever you do, impact millions of people, probably millions of people in the world. Isn't that a good feeling? What you're saying is going to impact the whole world. What you're doing out there, co-signing bills which impact, I signed a bill eliminating UN one time. And when I talk, USA politicians are not just domestic. You're talking about influencing the entire world. Isn't that good feeling? Isn't that Korean American come in USA, become a US congressman and running a whole nation, whole world? That feeling alone is worthwhile to run for it. You're going to be there and do whatever you're told to do it, or you're going to be a leader telling people what to do. I would like to be sitting top of it, become a leader, rather than bottom and yes sir, being told. And especially the Koreans are still politically kind of weak position right now. I think we are obligated to help the Korea. How are you going to help them? Well, sure, you can be a millionaire, but I'm not sure. I think politically. But we don't have any political influence. There's nobody out there except when I was 20 years, I'm the last one. Why? There's so many smart second generations out there, born in America, went to fine school, attorneys. Why can't they why keep losing it? And there's a little trick there, how to convince white folks. Let me tell you one thing. We don't have any Korean district. Koreans got Koreatown, but evening, once business over, they go back to their house. Guess where they live? White district. Have an excellent school district system. Chinese live there. So you don't have any Korean town as such, just doing business and all gone. So where do you go? No place. I cannot rely on Koreans anymore. We actually rely on money raising, but I cannot get votes. Besides, Koreans don't vote for some reason. Voting rate is very low. So you gotta look at maybe fundraising is excellent, Koreans, but you gotta go to white town, white district. Talk to white folks, vote for me. Yeah, it's not easy, isn't it? So you gotta be issue-oriented. You gotta come up with the issue that I'm one of you. Am I telling you that you totally agree with? No.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your insights.
Thank you. Same here. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
And that does it for us tonight on After 10. Join us again next time. We'll see you soon.
Your comments on After 10. After 10 always welcomes viewers' opinions. Please leave your comments, great ideas, or suggestions by sending an email, leaving a message on our webpage, or through Twitter.